All right, well, you guys are in for a treat today because you guys are going to see probably the best shadow operator to have ever existed. And he's going to be doing a presentation and breaking down literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of game, everything that he's collected over the last 2 decades that he has been doing this. It's such an incredible opportunity for you guys to sit here and learn from truly a living legend. So, with all that being said, I know that we have a lot to get through here today. So I'm going to waste no time and hand it over to Mr. Jason Fladlin.
Awesome. Iman, thank you, sir. All right, boys and girls, you ready? Give me some love in the chat if you are. We're going to get queued up here. We're going to get ready to rock and roll. And if you're good to go, put it in the chat. And I got is this the live chat right over here? Perfect. Awesome. Spam some love in the chat for me real quick so I can see it. Let's go. My name is Jason Fladlin. I'm going to take you on a crazy journey today. We're going to go a little bit higher in the clouds, and then we're going to zoom down and swoop in at the end. Now, before we get there, though, it's going to be you and me on the screen for a few minutes, and then I'm going to show you some slides. But I wanted to start something today, very heartfelt, very personal, because if you've known me by now, we do the live Q&As at the end. You know I speak what's on my mind, and I show up as much of me as I possibly can. To really put what's at stake with what we are doing here, let's talk about the limited time that we have here on Earth. And this is on my mind and in my heart because my father recently passed away Sunday, December 20th, 2025. And I had to fly from Los Angeles to Iowa to see him 1 week before he passed. I was able to get back there and spend some time with him. He had taken a turn for the worst. He was, it was getting to be his time, but it didn't seem to be that soon. But I was in Cape Town with Iman and the boys, and I got the call. So I went from Cape Town, got to LA, went to Iowa to see my dad, got back to LA, and then I heard the news. And what I realized is looking back on it now, as he held out, he waited for me to see me one last time before he passed on. And my dad was a bit of a local legend. He was a high school teacher and a wrestling coach. And then when he retired, he became a Hall of Fame mock trial coach. And I had seen my dad as a wrestling coach still beat the shit out of these 17 and 18-year-old kids when he is the age that I am now, and he is as slow and as hobbled as I am now. And it was crazy, but my dad was a stud. He would run 10 miles every day from the time that I was 3 until the time that I was 25. I don't ever remember a time of him missing that. And when we would go out, somebody somewhere would stop us, and they would tell me how much my dad had impacted them or helped them in some sort of meaningful way when I grew up. And a few kids said that he even saved their lives and that he gave them hope and that he gave them purpose. My dad was a huge believer in self-education. I would always see him studying something, whether it was juggling or the nunchucks or drawing or Japanese calligraphy. When I was 18, I was in a very bad state. I was depressed. I had panic attacks that I suffered from on a daily basis. I had tried to go to university at Iowa State, and I was getting good grades, but I just didn't feel right. I was dealing with this trauma. My mom was going to prison. My mom and my dad had split up when I was young. And so I felt very alone. And that Easter weekend, I decided to drop out of school. I took 2 storage bins because that's all I owned at the time. And I moved back into my dad's apartment without even asking. And the next day we're going to Easter and we're driving to see my grandma. My dad turns to me and he says, "When are you going to go back to school?" And I said to him, "I'm not." And he just nodded. And then we never, ever spoke about it again. And then I lived with him in this tiny little apartment in this really shitty area for the next several years. When I turned 20, I became a monk, a Hare Krishna monk. And my dad just watched me, and he thought I was probably insane and crazy. But you know what? He never said a word about it. I'd wake up in the morning, and I'd chant, and I'd pray, and I'd do these elaborate rituals. And my dad had to, step over me because the place we were living in was so small. I recorded, and produced a rap album in this apartment that I lived in with my dad. And again, he would just watch me, and he wouldn't say anything about it. But then when I started doing shows locally, him and my stepmother would come, and they would show up to these shows and watch me perform. I started my first business in that apartment. And that was a business that I would grow to many millions of dollars. and it was the foundation for what my business has become today. When I visited my dad for the last time, in a sudden moment of lucidity, he turned to me and he said, "Son, I am proud of you. I'm so proud of who you are, and I'm so proud of what you've done." And he had said similar things like that to me before, but I never heard him say it with such conviction as he said it to me that day. And man, of everything he loved in life, he loved me most. And so if we could put the slides on the screen now with that said, I would like to dedicate this presentation to that man today, my father, and I would like to offer this as a tribute to him. My dad taught me how to teach. He taught me how to coach. He did everything he could to shape me into the man that I am today. And now it is my turn to pass this wisdom on to you, to help you like he helped me, to help you achieve success. And hopefully, my friend, not just financial success, because that's just the beginning of it. It's an important piece, but the real value comes when you reach that level of financial autonomy and you can choose how you live your life. And that's the real mark of success. To live your life in a way that can make the ones you love proud of who you are. And my goal is to help contribute to that in whatever way possible. So I channel these very strong and very heavy emotions that I've been going through. And I put my heart into this today to give you my A-level best. And that's what you're getting from me. And what I want in return is your attention. And I want your sincerity. Attention and sincerity. Can you give that to me? I hope so, because if I show you anything today that can resonate with you, my wish is that you grab onto it, that you use it, that you do your very best to extract the most value of it possible. And if you're cool like that, why don't you drop me a hell yes in the chat right now? Put it in the chat right now. Let's go. All right? Now on to business. I have 3 insane exclusive bonuses I'm going to offer at the end of my presentation here today. They are only available while we are here live today. They are crazy and only something that I could give you because I am probably the most successful shadow operator on the planet when it comes to the model that we've been jamming on the last 4 days. Plus, obviously, today I'm going to show you some legit secrets for free. Would you like to know what these secrets are that you're going to get by the end of our presentation today? Well, we're going to talk about why smaller focused audiences routinely out-earn celebrity followings and how to tap into a hidden pocket of 1,000 true fans inside any creator's base. I'm going to talk to you about the 1% conversion rule, how a single yes can permanently change your income trajectory. I'm going to talk about risk removal, not hype, not pressure, not promises, why risk removal is the real conversion engine. I'm going to talk about the rejection frame that dissolves outreach fear. You're going to love that. I'm going to talk about how a $9.8 million launch in 8 days crushed competitors by over $7 million using my favorite shadow operator framework, which is packaging, positioning, and leverage. We'll break that down. I'm going to talk about the time-money trade-off and how to compress months of trial and error into days or even hours. We're going to go into the infrastructure shift that removes payment friction entirely, automatic splits, instant fulfillment, and why this quietly multiplies deal velocity. I'm going to talk to you about why wealth scales better in the shadows and how to control the deal, not the spotlight, in the exact moment where leverage compounds, how one successful partnership attracts the next, and why growth becomes exponential in this situation, not linear. I'm going to go over this and a whole bunch more, and we're going to try to do it as fast as we can. You ready to go? If so, shadow operator, put it in the chat right now. And we got to jam because this is way bigger than Instagram. But we're going to start there because it's the lowest hanging fruit on the planet. Right now, there are over 78 million content creators on Instagram that loosely fit the criteria of who I would suggest you approach. And within that 78 million content creators, there's 41 million I am 100% right fit or certain that are candidates for you as a shadow operator. They meet the exact criteria of someone Iman and I would tell you to approach with your risk-free deal to help them monetize their audience, to serve their community at the highest level, and get your fair share for bringing in massive value to these creators. And now let me give you some context here because I've been doing this damn near 20 years and I've generated over 250 million in sales and I've influenced some of the biggest names across multiple industries. So when I tell you something, it's not theory. Everything I discuss with you today comes from pattern recognition in the trenches. Here's what I know. if you want to increase the value of something, anything, doesn't matter what it is, if you want to increase the value of something, you increase demand while decreasing supply. Every single major launch that I've been a part of, and I've been a part of record-breaking launches from this one, the $9.8 million launch in 8 days. That was a shadow operator launch, by the way, to the Big Daddy, the $57.9 million launch in 226 days from scratch, which was also a shadow operator. We will break that down. The number one thing that I look for when it comes to leverage in these deals is this: massive demand, minimum supply. And right now, we've got 78 million plus micro creators that are desperate and demanding for what you can offer as a shadow operator. But the supply of people like you, shadow operators who know what they're doing, who are disciplined enough to stay with us for 4 days of a challenge? Think about that. Think about that supply. So you are the audience within the audience within the audience of people who started with us. It's slim. So the supply of true blue shadow operators is very small, and the demand is massive. See, here's the reality. Most people, they don't invest in their future self. They won't follow proven structural advice. Most people don't even know this system even exists. So you should count your blessings for just being aware. We're on day 4 right now. We started with over 80,000 people on the first day. There's way less than 50,000 of you still here, and that's what success actually looks like. Showing up on a regular basis. So if you're here, congratulations. You are doing the things that you need to do to be successful. Now, not all of you have invested yet, though I'm going to plead my case on why you should with some killer bonuses. But the point is this. The supply for what you do is minuscule. It's a drop in the ocean. Yet the demand is even bigger than just you and the micro creators that you'll approach. The real value comes from the audiences that these creators are trying to serve. So 78 million times many millions more. Because here's what these micro creators have done. They've gotten their audience so close to what the audience wants without getting them all the way there. If we're talking analogies, this is like driving the ball down to the 1-yard line in football and then not putting it into the end zone as the clock expires. Guess what this gets you? Exactly 0 points. Now, I train sales organizations, a lot of corporate sales organizations. They pay me large amounts of money. I've trained 9-figure sales organizations sometimes even, by the way, and I always tell them the same thing. I say a sale that is 99% closed is worth exactly $0. A fully grown crop teeming with food will rot and decay into nothing if it isn't picked and if it isn't harvested. This is why you should study how money moves. You're going to see people who make a lot of money are often the ones who stand at the end of the chain from when supply and demand start and where money transacts at the end. So all of these audiences that these micro creators can reach, they are this close to being sold something if only somebody would put something in front of them to buy. And if you're at that end of that chain, you deserve this deal flow, right? You deserve the revenue that's at stake. So operators get in at the end. They help the money move, and they get rewarded. You feel that? They make massive amounts of money as a result. So my real estate agent, she's working with me to sell a multi-million-dollar property that I own. And she gets 3% of the sale when it happens. Why? Because she can do the one thing that's really important. Put it in the end zone. Close the deal, right? Some of the richest people in the world are fund managers. I live near some of them. And these are people you have never heard of. They are true shadow operators. They are silent billionaires. And they get rich because they can get people to give them money to invest. And even if these fund managers lose their clients' money, they still can become billionaires simply because they're in the intersection where money moves. You want more money? Get in the intersection of where money moves. They are at the close to the final step where the money lands. I'll talk more about the psychology that you need to step into to truly own this position and to feel good about it and to unlock leverage that's actually easier than building an audience, which the micro creator's done. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how it's easier than all the work that the micro creators have put in. So not only just to acquire the audience, but to build a relationship with that audience. Okay? But what you do is more valuable, even though it's easier. Isn't that interesting? So you do provide more value, even though you will have to put in a lot less effort and time to get that. Now, we'll get back to that in a second. Here's the point. These audience that these micro creators are serving are worse off by not having a properly structured product to invest in. Let me say that again. I want you to really step into this. They are worse off, these audience, these micro creators reach, by not having a properly structured product to invest in. At least 2 to 10% of any audience would prefer a paid solution that was properly structured over free information that's unstructured and full of gaps. Let me put it this way. There are people just like me who follow micro influencers all over the world. We're the type of people who pay others to change our oil, pay others to cook our food, pay others to assemble our furniture, pay others to hang our Christmas lights, pay others to do the things that would cost us more in time, which we don't have, than it does in money, which we do have. And this is who you are going to serve. You're going to give them something they wish they could have invested in sooner. You're going to help the micro creator deliver that. You're going to give them, you're going to give it to them using proprietary tools like Ghostwriter and like Synthesize, and we'll break that down more in a bit, right? So they're going to get the most value from it, and you're going to help the micro creator truly level up their impact and make their life easier and get that financial monkey off their back because they need to make money to keep going. So you're going to help them do that while giving the portion of their audience who is desperate to invest the opportunity to buy something greater than the money they're currently holding in their hands. So here's my call to action to you. Right now, right here. I want you to drop Shadow Operator in the chat if you're up to that task of doing that, helping the micro creator finally put a structured product to that portion of the audience who is dying to buy it. Are you up for that task? Shadow Operator in the chat if you are. All right? There are 41 million micro creators within that 78 million subsegment who absolutely desperately need you. They just don't know it yet. There are 41 million micro creators hurting every single day that you delay in reaching out to them. There are 41 million micro creators that represent billions of dollars in shadow operating possibility. I said billions with a B. Somebody's going to step up and claim it. Why not you? Now, if it's going to be you, type Shadow Operator in the chat because I want you committed here, right? I don't do this just for fun. I do this for impact. And the impact happens if I can get you to churn what we're saying into a reality that improves your life. Now, here's the best part of all of this. Access to these micro creators has been democratized, my friend. Democratized. It is now easier than ever to reach out to them. Let me explain. See, when I started digital marketing back in the ancient year of 2007, the term influencer didn't even exist. Social media of choice was MySpace, and pretty much only bands, musicians, and like angsty goth teenage girls used that platform. If you wanted to approach somebody of influence, like a real influential person, a creator, if you will, there was no easy way to do it. It just was not a thing that was simple. I would find mailing addresses, and I would send handwritten notes through the mail just to get influential people's attention. Either that, or I would do these elaborate Google searches, and I would pay fees to get people's personal phone numbers. I would cold call them. I would try to find their email address, and I would send them a pitch, and I would hope that they would respond. And there were so few creators in the space that you could even reach out to. So there was few of them. They were hard to reach out to them. And if you did reach out to them, it was just kind of weird. Because we were all living through the platform of what social media was for the first time. Social media was a new thing to everybody collectively at the time, and nobody knew what to do with it. There was no normal yet. These days, I have people with $10 million to $100 million a year businesses regularly sliding into little Jason Fladlin's DMs, right? On the flip side, when I need to contact somebody and I send them a text or I send them an email, they often respond slower than if I just send them a DM, which is insane. The DM is the new normal. The direct message is the new normal. And it's just as easy for you to access these micro creators as it would be to reach out to a friend. Now, here's the downside to that. If it's as easy for you, it's as easy for everybody. I get so much DM spam that if I got paid $1 per DM, I'd be richer than I already am. But you should never let noise stop you if you have strategy. Here's what I mean. If there's 1,000 DMs being sent, but you have the proper strategy to send the 1 in 1,000 that gets attention and gets a response, then it doesn't really matter how many other idiots are out there sending really shitty DMs. And over the last few days, we've broken down the strategy of what a really good DM looks like when you're approaching these micro creators. Now, we intentionally suggest you go after micro creators because they're not getting DMs like Iman or I am getting. They're getting less than a dozen a week on average. And so you don't need strategy. There isn't noise. But I also want you to use strategy on top of approaching people where you don't need to actually have much strategy to land your first deal. Now, do you remember what this was over the last 4 days of our training time? It starts not with an ask, it starts with a give. And not just any give either. A give that has personalization to the micro creator and comes with value. A give that also sets up the deal so it happens smoothly and easily. It's a whole strategy that some of the greatest marketing minds that you'll ever come across have developed. Besides, these micro creators, like I said, aren't getting hit up nearly as much as Iman or myself are. They get way less DMs, and they get almost no DMs that understand really good communication strategies like the ones that we have taught over the last couple of days, right? So with 78 million micro creators out there and a really powerful give first strategy, don't you agree that the opportunity here is incredible? To reach out with a give to all of these micro creators, to help them take what they know, create a product with it, put it in front of an audience, and then everybody wins, right? Now, this gets exciting when you run it through the greatest equation that most people aren't even aware of when it comes to making money. Would you like to see this equation? If so, type shadow operator into the chat right now. We're going to cook, baby. Let me explain. Artificial intelligence is the single greatest invention to mankind. Maybe since fire? I think I would even put it on my tier list higher than fire. Higher than fire. I think AI is the greatest mankind invention until it overtakes us all and then the robots rule the world. But I think that's not for another couple thousand years, right? AI truly is science fiction come to life. You have a machine that is better than 99% of human beings at 99% of tasks, and you're in the adoption period where most people have no clue how to use it or how to leverage it. We call this massive opportunity, my friend. Now, I want you to notice, we are not using AI to send out the messages to micro creators. No. Because AI is not very good at that. AI totally sucks at that, actually. It'll make you sound like everybody else. And if you sound like everybody else when you're doing outreach, you might as well not even exist. So we will still use human ingenuity to develop the best outreach to these micro creators. Now, here's how we use AI to assist us with it, which is we use AI to develop personalized game plans. So when we reach out to these micro creators and we say, hey, listen, there's something I can help you with. Would you be interested in it? And they say yes. We give them a personalized, detailed game plan, and this is what the AI creates for us, and this is what makes the AI super duper powerful. Because the specialized AI that we've developed has been trained specifically for the task of crunching a ton of data on a micro creator's profile, just like you're seeing on your screen right here, and then extracts from that data the right key personal information related to them that is most likely to get the creator to respond positively to the DM you send them with their game plan. So you just need to get them interested in the game plan. They ask for it, you deliver it to them, and they say, whoa, I now see the potential. If I partnered with this shadow operator and they help me put together this product, I can see how my audience would buy it. Now, these personalized game plans, they used to take hours to create or thousands of dollars if you were to outsource it. And I'd recommend most of you should outsource it instead of create it yourself if you don't know how to create it. But now you can do them in minutes, and they can be done better than what most humans can do if they had dozens of hours to do each game plan manually. Now, if you can't invest and monetize, and this is your only option, this is still worth doing on your own, 100%. But if you're sold on the idea of shadow operating and you want to work with us, then use the AI that we specifically developed to create these valuable things for free that you're giving to micro creators ahead of time. And the AI is now being used in clever fashion to create value in advance for free, which is normally not something you could do willy-nilly. What I mean by this is, if you speculatively put forth at your own cost a game plan for each micro creator, there's still a strong likelihood that any individual creator is not going to say yes to it and close a deal with you. So you can't just go out there to each micro creator and say, here's your game plan, here's your game plan, here's your game plan, here's your game plan, here's your game plan. Even if you could develop them in seconds just like that. Because most of them are just not going to say yes when you cold outreach to them. That's just the way the game works. We are playing a game of probabilities where you have to reach out to many micro creators because there are dozens or even hundreds of reasons why a micro creator won't say yes to your deal of you being their shadow operator. And pretty much none of these reasons have anything to do with you. Now pay attention. This is a very important point because I think it's going to help you move forward and release a lot of friction that you're currently holding, right? Listen, you could have the most fertile soil on the entire planet with the best seed, and you could be the best farmer to exist, but the weather can still destroy your crop. You can't control the weather. So you counteract this uncertainty with quantity. And there's a saying that sometimes quantity takes on its own quality. What I mean by that is, in the past, you'd have to be ultra strategic and really intentional to create these game plans because you could only create a couple at a time. And you'd have to do it with the micro creators that you think would have the highest likelihood of saying yes, because it's going to be a lot of work up front just to start a conversation with them. And that's like predicting the weather. It's very difficult to do. So instead, what we do is use quantity. We can reach out to lots of micro creators, and we can develop lots of game plans to give value in advance, knowing that most people, even after having seen a game plan, will not necessarily say yes to it. And that's freaking awesome, because in this scenario, every no leads you one step closer to a yes. You only need one yes to completely change your life. Now, more on that in a second. Let's talk now about Instagram. In a lot of ways, Instagram is the perfect platform to start off on because it's a short-form platform. I don't know if you've noticed this, but Iman and I, we stay on here with you for hours every single day, for many days straight. I'm here at significant cost to my own personal situation. I have to leave my wife, who I love madly. I have to leave behind the kids, who I work so hard to provide for. And I have to leave behind Bella, my golden retriever, who's like a fourth kid to me. And I have to get on a plane, and I have to fly 16 hours from LA to Dubai to be on site here for nearly 2 weeks. And this is the most valuable resource that I have in the world, the time that I spend with the ones that I love. I sacrifice that and give it up to be here and share with you for many days, many hours of hard work. And I do it because it's worth it. Because a big part of what gives meaning in my life is to offer contribution and value to you. Long-form content is incredibly valuable, but it's also incredibly difficult. It requires incredible sacrifice. Short-form content is awesome because it's short. But the problem with being short is it's hard to have an impact when you speak in sound bites, generally speaking. But on Instagram, it's not a bug, it's actually a feature. Instagram is such a great platform because you can be short form and still have impact, especially because of how we taught you to use stories with this 14-day sequence and with this 3-phase approach. So when you partner up with a creator and you help them launch their digital product, platforms like Facebook and Twitter, they can be useful, but the strategies there are a little bit more complicated. And the responsiveness is not often as ripe as it is for Instagram. So Instagram is the perfect platform to start with. It requires the least amount of effort on your part to have a micro creator communicate with their audience in a way that results in products getting sold, people's lives getting better, and you getting paid. And it has the most micro creators on it of all the platforms. And you can reach them the easiest to help them launch their digital product to their audience. And boy, are there lots of audiences. I'm not sure how you can truly understand what a great time that you're living in right now because you haven't lived through the time that I lived through coming up in this digital marketing game. Not only was it impossible to really contact any creator back in the day without going through a lot of effort, but a lot of the platforms we could leverage and use to market on were very difficult to make money with. Many of the platforms had restrictions on the very content that you could use. There used to be a time when I was on YouTube where you could not post any business content. They didn't allow it. It was against the TOS. There was a time when people were scared to buy anything online because they weren't sure that it was safe. I'd have to sell people on the idea of buying things online like this. This was the close that I would use. I would say, hey, do you go out and eat at restaurants? And then they would say yes. And I'd say, do you give the waiter your credit card when you're done to pay the bill? And they would say yes. And I'd say, okay, so you take a complete stranger and you put a physical credit card in their hand that they walk away with and you don't know where they go to, and that's okay with you, but you won't use a checkout link online, which is infinitely more secure than that credit card that you're handing to a waiter right now. So what to speak of the audiences that are available right now? So people buy more stuff online than they do offline. And you can reach more people online because most people spend their waking hours online more than offline, for better or worse. It is what it is, right? The amount of people that are staring at a screen for 6+ hours a day is in the billions. That's how many people are online for 6 hours a day or more, okay? And this has changed significantly over the last 15 years. It used to be more attention and more money was spent offline by a large amount. And now more attention and more money is being spent online by a large amount. So you have more people than ever before in history who are staring at screens. You have more people that you can reach immediately and directly than ever before. And you can reach these people for free, which used to be impossible. Used to not even be a possibility. And you're reaching people who buy things online as natural as breathing air. You are now able to reach them with this new emerging technology of artificial intelligence too. So brothers and sisters, if you can't put these pieces in place and make lots of money right now, I don't think you'll ever have a better time in your life to do so. Is that making sense? Like, I hope you truly get it. I can appreciate it because I lived through the other side of it. But it's hard to appreciate it if you don't truly understand how valuable it is. And hopefully you can see it's so valuable now. I'm trying to impress upon you how unbelievably fortunate you are to be at this time in this place right now. If this is landing with you, put a shadow operator in the chat just so I can make sure that we're on the same page. Because, I've been dazzling you with these big numbers and all this data and such, but 78 million creators that exist out there and billions of dollars being spent online every day and billions of people spending 6 hours a day online, it's easy to get lost in these numbers. They're big. It's hard to wrap your head around. So let's talk about a number that's easy to manage. Let's talk about a number that can completely change your life. Let's talk about the number 1. One of the greatest books that I've read in recent history is the book Tiny Little Habits by B.J. Fogg. B.J. Fogg is a professor at Stanford. And speaking of Instagram, by the way, the guys who created Instagram took his course at Stanford and used his Tiny Little Habits framework to develop Instagram, which then became the fastest company in history at the time to reach $1 billion. And they did this by making Instagram addictive through the concept that B.J. Fogg taught about how to create tiny little habits. Now, a tiny little habit is an activity that is so ridiculously simple and small that it is harder to not do it than it is to do it. This is why I love this book for forming my own productive habits. B.J. Fogg gives this classic example in the book of how he wasn't flossing his teeth and he wanted to start that habit. So what he did was just floss one tooth initially. Because while the prospect of going from nothing to flossing all of your teeth. That may be a lot. Anybody can do just one tooth. And once you establish the habit of doing something the same time, the same way through repetition, then you get automaticity. And then it becomes easier to add another tooth to it because it's nearly effortless. And then you can add another tooth to it and then another tooth to it. That's how you build habits. The most effective, scientifically proven way of building habits. And having sold over $250 million online, I've noticed success in business is the same way. See, I started selling $4 ebooks that were 6 pages long because it was such a simple task for me to create and sell these digital products that it was more painful for me not to do it than it was for me to do it. The problem in this space is you see people here and there and everywhere that are making millions of dollars, flying private, driving fancy cars, going to fancy dinners, and a few of those people are actually legit. Not everything on the gram is true, but there's a lot of those people out there living that lifestyle, rented or paid for. Then you go and you compare your start to where you think their finish is at. And whether they're legit or not doesn't even matter because you psych yourself out because you can't wrap your head around $10 million or $1 million or even $100,000 if you're just starting and trying to make your first dollar. So the challenge we have bringing on shadow operators to interview and do Q&A sessions with you has been difficult for 2 reasons. One, they operate in the shadows, so they're not exactly excited to come out in public. And second, all of them that we talk to are ballers, making lots of money, and they're all legit. And Iman and I are sitting here being like, how can someone relate to this if they're just starting the process? This is going to be very intimidating to them. And it's the facts, right? So is it okay with you if I make it unintimidating? Let me know in the chat. Because 1 is the least intimidating number out there. You only need 1 deal and 1 deal only to change your life. You only need to have 1 micro creator say yes in order for your life to completely change for the better. Now, there are 2 reasons for this. 1, you will prove to yourself that it's now absolutely possible. 2, you will see that you can just repeat the process again with another micro creator. The hardest obstacle I have to overcome to sell you on shadow operating is the fact that you don't believe that you can be a shadow operator because you haven't done it yet. You say things like, well, why would a micro creator even respond to me? I'm a nobody who hasn't had any significance. And you say things like, well, why would they trust me with their audience? Because I could screw it up and ruin their whole relationship. They're probably scared that I'm going to do that, so they're not even going to entertain the idea. What you're worried about isn't that they're going to say no. You're actually worried that they're going to say yes. And that causes you to hesitate. Because if they were to say yes, then you're going to have to help them launch a product. And what if it goes completely sideways? And what if everybody gets mad? And what if next thing you know, they're wishing death upon you? I'm bringing this up for a very specific reason. This is the biggest friction that I know that I'm encountering when I'm showing you what's possible as a shadow operator. The no is scary, but the yes could be even scarier when you land these deals, in your mind, at least, because the reality is not that. What I described is not true in reality, but it is true when you're worrying about what could go wrong in your mind. See, all of that, though, dissolves instantly when you realize that there are no boogeymen under the bed in this model, and that the reality is much safer than the nightmare scenarios that really only exist in your head. Once you get 1 deal, you will realize that this is easier than even we make it sound. Once you get 1 deal, you will realize that this is simpler than hundreds of other activities that you've already done and achieved in your life. This is easier. There's probably 7,000 things in your life that you've already done that are harder than shadow operating, and you've already done them. And you will realize that the way you get to $1 million isn't going from 0 to $1 million. You get there $1 at a time. You get there 1 customer at a time. You get there 1 deal at a time. The greatest secret to success that I've learned that has really helped me in my career is that the big numbers come from doing a few small things well. You want large results? Do a few things, but just do them well. It's no different than how a giant oak tree comes from the seed of an acorn that a child can hold in their hand. The millions come from the initial simple success of making thousands of dollars and then just repeating it over and over again. See, there are 8 billion people on this planet, and you only need 1,000 of them to give you $1,000 if you want to make $1 million. Do you suppose that there are 1,000 people on this planet right now who would pay you $1,000 through a micro creator? There's your $1 million. Are you telling me there's no way possible that you can't find these people out there? There's got to be a way, isn't there? There's got to be a way. It doesn't have to be you directly, though. It can be you through the shadows with a micro creator. We could easily get 1,000 people through a micro creator. And if we put together deals that only made you $1,000 net profit per deal, think about that. That's on the lowest of the low end with micro creators. There you go. Put together one micro creator deal that sold 1,000 people $1,000. There's your $1 million. Now, it never works that way, right? It never does. Let's be straight with each other. It does not work that way because a good micro creator could easily make you $10,000 here or $20,000 there or $50,000 there. That's on the conservative side. So let's just say each deal makes you only $10,000. Like, let's be extremely ultra conservative here. And you did just one deal per month. Which, again, this isn't how this works, but we're just running a thought experiment. If you did one deal per month and each deal only made you $10,000, in 1 year, you would make $120,000. Now, if each micro creator was worth $20,000 to you per deal, then in 1 year, if you did one per month, a deal, that's 12 deals, you would make $240,000. Question, would that be life-changing to you? Would you be willing to strap in and put some focus on this and really implement to the best of your abilities to close just one deal a month if it meant nearly $250,000 in your pocket in 1 year's time? Would you be willing to do that? If so, Shadow Operator, put it in the chat. Now, again, it doesn't work that way. It's non-linear because oftentimes one deal blows up. So you might do one small deal, and then boom, you hit the big time. And then the micro creators come to you. But I'm getting ahead of myself because the numbers work out even better. Because this is a business that doesn't function from a linear perspective. It becomes exponential. It's really important you understand this concept in your business about linear versus exponential. Once you understand this, you'll realize that your brain is equipped to interpret the world through a linear perspective, but the world is actually exponential. Each deal multiplies from the last deal. Let me explain. Once you get one deal, you're never starting from scratch again. You only have to start from scratch in this business one freaking time. So once you get a deal, you're leveraging the success of that deal to multiply the success of the next deal. Okay? We'll loop back to that in a second. Stay with me here a little longer on the power of small numbers. One deal with one micro creator can put you in front of 20,000 to 100,000 followers of that micro creator. And again, having sold hundreds of millions of dollars online, I have a secret that most people aren't aware of. The real value of this audience is not in the 20,000 total followers, or the 50,000 followers, or the 100,000 followers. The real value inside the micro creators' audiences is another audience. The audience of 1,000 true fans. In 2008, there was an article written called 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly. This article was written for musicians, so I paid particular attention to it because I was, a rap artist at the time, still trying to run that business, trying to be successful while starving to death in this little tiny apartment. And when I read this article, it was groundbreaking because in it, Kevin puts forth this concept that in order for you to be truly successful, you don't need to sell 1 million people. You just need to find 1,000 diehard fans. Because there's a law in the universe that works across all data sets, and it works especially true in business, and it's called the 80-20 rule, meaning about 20% of your inputs give you 80% of your outputs. So 20% of drivers cause about 80% of wrecks, 20% of criminals commit about 80% of crimes, 20% of investors make about 80% of the money in the market. And in business, 20% of customers spend 80% of the money available in that market. So if you reach 20,000 people through a micro creator's following, you're not really concerned with the number 20,000. What you really want is to reach that 4,000 members within that 20,000 who are likely to be the hottest buyers. And this is what the Instagram launch formula was designed and engineered around and has been automated with Ghostwriter OS. The true value of being a shadow operator is that you don't have to assemble an audience from scratch. Instead, what you're doing is leveraging already existing assembled audiences. And from those audiences, mathematically, there's going to be 20% of people within that audience that are already ready to spend money on any product if there has been no product put in front of them previously. We call this the low-hanging fruit. Now, if you were building an audience from scratch, you can't just go to Facebook and say, hey, give me those 20% buyers. Sift and sort them, and ignore 4/5 of the other ones and just give me the best buyers. You can't do that. You can't go to Google and say, only show my results for the 20% of buyers who are going to spend 80% of the money available. Doesn't work that way. The only way you get the 20% is by having the other 80%. This is what makes these audiences so valuable to you. Because somebody had to build the whole audience. They had to kiss a lot of frogs before they found a prince, if we use the old dating analogy from the woman's perspective, right? 4/5 of any audience is essentially worthless. I laugh at it because people think they're dunking on us when we do these launches, and I read the chats and they say, oh, you started with this many people on day 1, and on day 4 you have this many people. VIP started here, and now VIP's there. I'm like, yeah, that's a mathematic principle. Even Jason, Sir Jason of Fladland, the persuasion prince, is not able to override the mathematical laws of this universe. This is just the way this works. You don't do it for the majority who are not going to invest. You do it for the minority who are dying to invest. And this is where you get really, really rich off that audience within the audience. But you never know who's going to be the 20% that spends the 80%, and you don't know who's going to be the other 80% who spends practically nothing. And this is an issue that keeps a lot of marketers poor, because they'll go out there and they'll reach out to thousands and thousands of people, and they won't see any money from it. Unfortunately, however their marketing played out, it never hit those key people in the market that spend the most money. Now, we bypass this problem completely because we go to existing audiences that have already been assembled, ranging between 20,000 to 100,000 people, or 10,000, or even 5,000 to 100,000 people. I'm okay with any of those scenarios. And we know that within those audiences, a majority of them are not going to buy from the micro creator when we help them create the product and launch it to that audience. And that is totally okay, because if you have 1,000 people who spend $100 with you, that's a $100,000 launch. If we just have 1,000 people spend $100, that's $100,000. But even 1,000 people is a lot. If we only get 100 people out of an audience following of 50,000 to buy a digital product for $100, then that's $10,000. How much of a difference would $10,000 make right now in your life? I know for most of you it would make a lot of a difference, because most of you making the investment and monetize is difficult for you right now. So 10,000 would be completely life-changing to you, especially if you could make it within the next month, right? Now, is it okay if I go a little bit deeper with you here on this? I'm going to break down some further advanced psychology that very few people on this planet understand, and it goes like this. The smaller the audience, the more responsive it tends to be. In one of my legendary shadow operating campaigns, we were taking an existing product and we repositioned it. We put it in front of a new audience. And this is actually one of the greatest superpowers as a shadow operator that you do. You get to leverage existing assets that creators have already developed and find new and valuable ways to deploy those assets and get paid lots of money. It's like Viagra. I don't know if you know how Viagra was invented. Somebody was trying to treat blood pressure, high blood pressure. And the test subjects were like, well, it's not helping my blood pressure go down, but it's helping something else come up. And they're like, okay, existing asset pointed to a new market, billions of dollars. So all you have to do is take existing assets and slightly tweak or position what those assets are. And this is something somebody's built their whole life, and you just put this little cherry on top, and the money gets going. So in this particular instance of us doing this, we were competing against one of the biggest names in the history of the financial space. I'm sure you've heard of them, and this time I'm going to name a name. It's a guy named Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not a fan, right? But Robert Kiyosaki has written the best-selling book of all time on financial literacy, which is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So this book has sold millions and millions and millions of copies. And at the time that we were competing against him, he had an audience of over 10 million people that he could reach. Me, on the other hand, I had access to an audience of 50,000 people that I could access for our shadow operation that we were running, just 50,000. And now because Kiyosaki and a whole bunch of other people, they were all promoting the same product. We were operating as affiliates in this instance, meaning we're behind the scenes promoting a product that somebody else has already created. This is similar to how you're going to have the micro creator already create a product, right? Have them create a product. Now, we were doing this in a contest environment, so whoever sold the most got a bonus on top of that, and there was a leaderboard, okay? Now, when you run in these contests as a shadow operator, these products, they open at a certain time, and then they close at a certain time. So we're all promoting the same product at the same time. So there's winners and losers here. There's real stake. And none of us, it's not any of our products. We are all promoting somebody else's product. So we're competing against hundreds of other people all selling the same product, and here was the results. We made millions of dollars more in net profit than Kiyosaki did. With his big name out there, with him personally endorsing it, with him front and center to tens of millions of people in his audience. He had way more of an audience that he had access to, personal access to, than I had access to. And it was a lesson that I learned very early in my career. I had launched a product at the end of 2007 that taught article writers a technique to improve the speed at which they could write their articles. Now, at the time, there wasn't really any social media. Instagram didn't exist. So I put my buyers on an email list, and this is how I would communicate to them. I would send them emails. And what I discovered is if I talked about article writing to these article writers, my open rates and my click-through rates on these emails were insane. But if I strayed for that and I talked about anything other than article writing, then it was like I didn't exist. People would unsubscribe from my email list. So people that were customers of mine yesterday were now upset with me today if I didn't stay talking about the thing that they were most interested in. And what happened is as my audience grew and I had different ways that people could follow me, I ended up with this dilemma. If I talked to one specific subgroup within that large group, I would alienate every other subgroup. So I'd have to water my message down to try to reach everybody. And as a result, I didn't really end up reaching anybody. Now, one of the biggest values that micro creators have is they have this really tight message to this audience that's specifically and only directly applicable to that specific audience that they can reach. The point I'm making with this is the audience is kind of like the Goldilocks effect. Not too big, not too small, just right. They're big enough that once we do a deal, there's a lot of money at stake, but they're small enough that the response rate is going to be super duper high. It's going to be way higher than you could get with large mass market styled audiences, which is why with 50,000 people and that tightly connected relationship to that audience, we could beat a famous celebrity personality who wrote a book with the president of the United States and had 10 million followers, and we could double him in sales. So these micro creators, not only are they easier for you to access because they're smaller, they have more actual money at stake, more pent-up value waiting to be extracted than super big names. Listen, I started shadow operating before Iman celebrated his 8th birthday. I've been around this block several times, and I've had a massive contribution in the space of shadow operating. And here's what I can tell you with 100% certainty. The shadow operators that I see win the most, and I'm not just talking in terms of percent, I'm talking in terms of actual dollars, always do so through smaller audiences, not larger audiences. So you do not want to do deals with people with millions of followers. I have worked with these celebrities that you follow, and I have done deals with the biggest names in the space, but I have always made more money working with people who have dedicated, loyal, true fans than I ever did with the mass market. We did 2 launches in the same week, one with Tony Robbins and one internally with a very small client, and the one internally with a small client pulled bigger numbers, right? So it's easier for you to reach these micro creators it's easier for you to work with them because they're not financially independent and they need revenue to continue creating. And you're going to have a bigger impact and bigger income working with these audiences. And I know that this is a difficult concept to wrap your head around right now of why smaller audiences produce larger profits than larger audiences. But at least does this resonate with you at some level? If so, drop a shadow operator in the chat. And I can see them all. It's in the right corner of my eye. I got the chat rolling right now, so I'll see them when they come flooding in. Because it's an abstract concept, but if you truly understand this, then I think it's going to make it easy for you to move forward as a shadow operator. All right? And I see them lighting up right there. And hell, since we're on the topic of complicated concepts that are not obvious and need to be unwound, let me just throw another one at you, all right? It's called ego versus money. And this is a big one. It's subtle. It's like carbon monoxide poisoning. You can't smell it, you don't know it exists, and then it kills you. It's there all the time, and you're not even aware of it. So let me bring some awareness for you. It's insane how rich you can be if you're willing to take none of the credit. I live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I live in Los Angeles, California, the Dubai of the West, right? And I live specifically within a suburb of Los Angeles called Brentwood, right? So like this is the upper crust of the upper crust. The richest of the rich live here. Now, when you think of LA, most people think of Hollywood celebrities who grace the big screens and win the awards and get talked about in the news and followed by the paparazzi. While the neighborhood that I live in, there are very few celebrities there because most of the celebrities do not make enough money to live in these neighborhoods that I live in and that surround me. When I walk the streets with my wife and the kids and the dog, the houses on the low end are 5 million, and that's on the low end, and the houses on the high end are 100 million or more. And you can't churn your head without seeing houses in between 20, 25, 30, 40 million. And you know who lives in those houses? It's not the celebrities. It's the agents of the celebrities. It's the lawyers for those celebrities. It's the producers and directors of the films that the celebrities star in. The celebrities are merely the talent. The real money goes to the shadow operators. The problem is, because you never see them, you discount the value of this. And you think that you have to be front and center in order to be successful. Yet that's the least effective position to be in because it has the most stress, it's the least flexible. Because as a shadow operator, get this, this is really cool. You can pick and choose who you work with. You have ultimate flexibility. You don't have to be beholden to any one specific market or any one specific position. You can be in several markets simultaneously, taking advantage of several different opportunities all at the same time. Write this down. Wealth scales better in the shadows. Let me say that again. Wealth scales better in the shadows. The only problem that you have to deal with is this. Are you willing to get little to no credit for your contribution to the marketplace? Because you're in the shadows. And I am the poster child for this. Many of the people that you follow and look up to, I have directly or indirectly had significant impact on their careers. And many of them have gone on and become incredibly famous off the backbone of many of the concepts that I initially put into their hands. Without me, most of these people would not be known. And I get very little of the credit for it. Iman knows. He knows the receipts that I hold. And I'm okay with it because I have a large stack of money to console myself with. Plus, and this is actually more important to me, impact is still impact. Whether the impact is credited to me or credited to somebody else, it doesn't take away from the impact. I know the contribution I have on the world still exists, whether I'm the one who gets the credit for it or somebody else does. So are you okay with allowing somebody else to take the credit if it means that you make more money than you ever thought possible? If so, give me a shadow operator in the chat right now. Because this is one of the things that people have difficulty with. They have the ego and not the money. I dropped the ego, now I have the money. Now, it is insane how far you can take this if you get really good at shadow operating. Like, it is absolutely, truly mind-blowing, insane. The grandest campaign that I ever shadow operated in was for a launch for a product called The Plan. A gentleman by the name of Dan Hollings, he came to me one day, and he asked me to be the shadow operator for his launch, me and my company, Rapid Crush. And 226 days later, we sold $57.9 million. Now, let me show you what those numbers look like. How big of an audience do you think we had to reach in order to sell $57.9 million? It had to be in the millions, right? And the answer is less than 250,000 people. That's it. Now, that's a lot of people, but it's not a lot compared to $57.9 million. Now, only a tiny fraction of those 250,000 souls were directly my audience, because I don't have a large audience. You know, I operate mostly in the shadows. I have a tiny audience, okay? And at the time, I had no social presence whatsoever. It's only been recently that I'm on the Instagram myself. I installed it for the first time as an app on my phone this year, or 2025. I installed it, right? All of these audiences that we did this $57 million launch came from other people. We would go to creators and we would have them promote this product that we published for Dan Hollings. We literally spent less than $1,000 on advertising to generate $57.9 million. This was all done through micro creators. All of the audience we got for this product was through micro creators. It wasn't my product. It was launched in a space I had zero expertise in, but I had strategy. I knew the shadow operator playbook, and I played it well. I knew what levers and strings to pull. And in this space, this is still the record to this very day, 5 years later. Nobody's done more in less time than this, okay? This is how powerful shadow operating can be. This is what it looks like at the highest of high levels. But see, Dan came to me 13 years later after we had done shadow operating from Dan previously. So this is why success compounds. This is why success is nonlinear. This is why $1 million seems infinitely far away from you right now. And then when you close a deal, all of a sudden it appears very close to you. And then you realize it is obtainable. Now back to the subject of credit, right? You will never get public credit for the contribution that you make as a shadow operator, but the people that are paying attention will give you credit. Oh my God, they will give you credit. So guys like Dan come to me because they find the clues of how other people in their space were able to go from nothing to having these successful launches and making millions of dollars. They follow the clues. So you get a reputation amongst a few highly influential people when you start shadow operating properly. And this is why it doesn't scale linearly. This is why not every deal is going to make you $20,000. You're going to start with these smaller deals, and then pretty soon the same effort is going to get you to a $30,000 deal, and then a $50,000 deal, and then a $250,000 deal, or however the hell it plays out for you. My point is it just goes stack, 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 right? It multiplies. You don't start from zero ever again. And so you do a couple of these launches, and not only is your outreach going to become much easier, because when you reach out to micro creators in the future, you can say, hey, we work with X, we work with Y, we work with Z, here's their results, we'd like to do the same for you. Easiest deal that you could put together ever in your life. Your response rate will go up when you send out these messages, and even better than that, people will start coming to you. They will say, so-and-so said that you helped them, ... I don't know if you've noticed this, if you've seen the guests over the last days, but almost at least half of them were clients of mine. They paid me consulting. Shadow operators consult with me more than anybody. So I am the shadow operator whisperer, if you will. And I have that reputation, and people come to me for that advice. And when you start helping micro creators, they will start coming to you as well. And this is how we're able to get deals like the $57 million deal that we landed. I did not outreach. It came to me. You outreach as long as it takes to close a winning deal, and then be shocked at how little you'll ever have to outreach again in your life. So are you willing to suffer for a little bit to go through that process, to have a long, long life of enjoyment? For that $57 million launch, I did not create the product. I did not develop the audience. I used the shadow operating strategy and structure to unlock the most value within that audience. And this is the power of shadow operating. It is the greatest form of financial arbitrage to ever exist. Does that excite you? If so, give me a shadow operator in the chat. I think that's insane. Now let's travel back in time from 2021 when we did the $57 million launch. This is me speaking on stage about it in Brazil last year, right? Let's go back to 2015 when we did the $9.8 million launch, and we did that in 8 days as a shadow operator. This is a great example right here. It's in a different market, another market in which I am not an expert in, and a majority of the 9.8 million came from other people's audiences. This is not my product. This is somebody else's product that I was able to take. I could take the packaging of the product and I could enhance it in ways that would make it more valuable. And I was so effective at this, and our company did so well with this as shadow operators, that other people who were promoting the same exact product, would you like to see how much more effective we were? We were about $7 million more effective. We sold nearly $7 million more than the second place shadow operator that you see on this leaderboard right here for a product selling products on Amazon, which I am not an expert in. I don't sell products on Amazon, but we know how to take a product, put it in front of audiences that micro creators hold in ways to get them to buy at a higher rate than anybody else on the planet, as you can see evidence right there on your screen. If you look at this, different shadow operators promoting the same product, none of them are famous names, by the way. You've never heard of any of these people. All of them follow the same concept of 1,000 true fans. In this particular case, the product we were selling was $5,000. So if you only sell 1,000 people a $5,000 product, there's your 1,000 true fans. That's $5 million worth of products. Isn't that insane? Now, obviously, you're not going to start there. But if you 10% at that, right? Would 500,000 on a shadow operating deal be okay with you if it's not 5 million? Would 50,000, if we 1% at that on a shadow operating deal, be cool with you? Okay. Now, would you like to know another real secret of shadow operating? It's something that is very subtle, yet is very profound. And it's at the top of my list of how I became so successful in my career, having now sold hundreds of millions of dollars in the shadows. Are you ready for it? Here it is. This is the greatest secret that I know to help you succeed as a shadow operator. And it's the majority of people buy, not when they say yes, but when they run out of ways to say no. I demonstrate this to you every single day when I hang out with you for hours and hours and hours and hours on these live streams, because I have to help you run out of excuses so you no longer default back to the smallest version of yourself and instead can step into that larger version of who you actually are. And this principle is consistent across every single marketing campaign that ever exists. So when you're reaching out to these creators, you are making it impossible for them to say no, because you are taking the risk out of it. That's at the heart of the shadow operating approach. You come in with a risk-free offer. A risk-free offer so amazing because you can't get harmed in this process. That's what makes a risk-free offer so great. You can only benefit. Now, how much can you benefit? Well, that can vary. But if you can always get something for nothing, it doesn't really matter what that something is. Wouldn't you agree? If I said, listen, it doesn't cost you anything to open up any one of these 10 safes. Now, there's different prizes in each one of these safes, but all safe contains a prize. You have only upside, no downside. This is what's called a risk-free offer. So what we do here is we cap the downside. So there's only upside left. We don't have to make bigger promises. We just have to remove more risk. So when you're contacting creators and you're offering the game plan in advance, you're removing the risk. And when you're allowing them to test out the demand by posting 3 stories on their Instagram before proceeding further, you're further removing the risk. And when you're taking something that they don't understand and they can't do, which is to create and launch a product to that audience, and you are putting it in place for them so now they can see how to do it with your help, you remove the risk further. And because they don't have to pay you anything up front to move forward with this, you're removing the risk even further still. The richest people that I know in this business are not the ones that push the limits of what's possible on the value side. Instead, they're vicious about removing risk. And the more they can remove the risk, the more money they make. Success is in the subtraction, my friend. It's not in the addition. The more things that you can remove that would get in the way of being the best version of you, the easier it is to become the best version of you. This is what we're doing as shadow operators. We're removing the risk for you. We're removing the risk of you having to go out and find an audience. We're removing the risk of you having to put yourself out there personally, which is frankly just too much for most of you right now. We are removing the risk of you having to figure this out yourself because we have the best practices in place. We are removing the risk because we're making it simple enough for you to manage it with the least moving parts, yet get a result that's so significant that it can completely change your life. Do you realize now that this is what's at stake here? Do you get how profound and powerful that this can be? If so, put that shadow operator in the chat. I want to make sure we're landing and we're vibrating on the same wavelength and frequency here. And now let's really zoom in on the biggest risk that's going to stop you from being successful with this model. And it's called the risk of rejection. Real talk. When you reach out to most micro creators, even with the best strategy possible, a majority of them are not going to respond to you. This is just called the law of variance. It's not a you thing. They have many other things going on in their life, and it doesn't matter who you are or what message you present. It's just not going to lead to a yes. In fact, the most common outcome that you're going to get when you send a message to a creator is what? To be ignored. You're just going to get ignored. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call that a rejection. Being ignored is different than being rejected. So a majority of people just are not even going to notice that you exist. You are not going to have any significance or impact on their life, and you just move on. You should never decide to live your life based on what other people who will never think of you might think of you. There's 78 million creators out there, and you ain't going to get them all. Now, I know what's holding a lot of you back, and that's you envisioning the worst possible case scenario here, that you're going to send a message and somebody's going to get mad, and then they're going to respond back to you in a vicious manner, and that's incredibly unlikely to happen. It almost never happens. It's not impossible. It's just very, very unlikely. It could happen, and here's why. Some people are assholes. You see them in the chat here occasionally. They pop up. There's not that many of them. I peg about 3% of the population as assholes. So there are just some people out there who are unreasonable to the point that you just have to pity what their life is like, walking around with all of that anger inside of them. So yes, let's acknowledge that it is a possibility that someone may occasionally respond to you with something that's less than pleasant. Again, incredibly unlikely, but let me just ask you this. Do you want to stay poor just to minimize the chance that you might encounter an asshole here and there? Because guess what? Poor people are assholes too. And you will encounter them no matter what you do. So you might as well get rich, right? Now, I know you wouldn't. Most people would, though. Most people would actually stay small because they're so fearful of the risk of potentially offending somebody who's already going to be offended. That's a tragedy. So please don't be one of those people. Can you commit to me that it's okay for you to occasionally run into an asshole if it also means that you're going to be more successful than anyone in your family lineage has ever previously been? Listen, I'm not asking you to maximize your exposure to assholes. Don't do that, which is, again, one of the superpowers of the shadow operating model. We built this in because we know that this is a real pain of putting you out there in public. When you're out in public, like I am right now and like Iman is, there's a lot of scrutiny, there's a lot of eyeballs, and everybody wants to weigh in with an opinion. So if you get some traction and you're in the public eye, you get a lot of that. Now, the shadow operator model already minimizes almost 100% of that friction because you're never in the spotlight. We just can't make it completely disappear. But realize that the outreach that you're going to do is incredibly effective. It's valuable. It's give first. But occasionally, yes, you may run into somebody who's having a bad day. But none of that matters once you close your first deal because you won't remember all of those other instances anymore. You'll just remember how much of an impact that you will have made on that one creator who desperately needed you and who is now forever grateful for the contribution that you've made to their life. I have one that I'm going to bring on later as a guest that I shadow operate for. And I'm going to interview him. And you can see, we can ask him, right? Are you up for the tiny chance that you may encounter some unpleasantness when it means you also are just one deal away from completely changing your life? Put my shadow operators in the chat. Show up, represent. Drop that shadow operator if you're okay with that. Now, the first deal is the hardest. That's just the way that it works. You have zero rep. You're learning a new system. You don't have any proof for yourself that it will work for you. I have my proof. Iman has his proof. We have so many shadow operators inside of Monetize that are just crushing it who have their proof. I have guests that we brought over the last few days. They all have proof. But that's not your proof. You haven't done it for yourself yet. So it isn't real for you yet. So the first deal is going to be the hardest. That's why you should start with the smallest possible first deal, the easiest one, just to get that yes. And I really don't even care how much money it makes you. If it only makes you $5,000 or $8,000 or $10,000, I'm going to consider that a massive win because you went from 0 to 1. You went from no deal to a deal. You went from abstract to reality. You went from concept to concrete. You've proven to the world that you have so much more value inside you than what's previously been shown. And once you do that, it's impossible not to continue to want to continue to do that. So commit to me that you will do whatever it takes to make that first deal, that you will do whatever it takes to make that first deal. Your first deal is going to be the hardest deal you make for the least amount of money with the most amount of effort, and it's fucking worth it, okay? Because you can't get the second deal without getting the first deal. You can't make millions of dollars without that first dollar. You can't multiply by 0. You can't have momentum without movement. So will you commit to me once and for all that you're going to make that first deal happen? Even though the first deal is as hard as it will ever be, it's still easier than any other model Iman and I could recommend to get you started right now. You committed? Shadow operator, put it in the chat right now. And now the real question becomes this. How do you get there the fastest and with the least amount of friction? See, when Iman and I design these events, we do so with 2 goals in mind. The first goal is to give you a full and complete system that if you absolutely have $0 in your bank account, you could take just the free advice we give you, apply it, and get a result with it. We do this because it feels good knowing that no matter who you are, no matter where you're at, we can be of service to you. Now, we also know that many of you have enough money to invest, and you want to get there sooner and easier and faster. You want to compress time. You want to eliminate mistakes that you would make if you did it all by yourself. So if you don't invest money in tools and training and coaching and resources to take advantage of shadow operators, then you have to invest time. And the crazy thing about doing this on your own is you end up spending money anyway, because eventually you will run into a brick wall if you're all by yourself, where you then have to go buy a sledgehammer and then smash it over. And I can speak with confidence that any tool that you will find out there in the wild will not be as useful to you as the tools that we provide to you when we offer you Monetize. Now, don't get it twisted. When you invest with us, you still have to invest your time to work the system. You still have to implement. But if we're shaving off dozens and dozens of hours per week, making it easier and making it easier for you to manage, no matter what your current circumstances are, no matter how many responsibilities you have, that you can make this work. The fastest way to being successful with a shadow operator, the surest way of being successful as a shadow operator, is to get the best resources, the best tools, the most support, the best community to get there as fast as possible. And that's to sign up with us here today. And if you're already signed up, or if you sign up by the end of today, I got some insane time-limited bonuses to sweeten the pot even further to put more on your side. So if you're committed, you have to invest something. And time is always part of that investment. We're just trying to figure out what the right size of investment is. Do you go at it on your own or do you go at it with us? More on that in a second. Now, when I first started selling online, it wasn't easy to take money. even if people wanted to give it to you. I had to go and get a PayPal account. In order to get a PayPal account, I had to jump through more hoops than you can even imagine. It felt like I had to submit a blood test, a DNA test, and I had to give naming rights to my firstborn in order just to be able to process money online. There was no Stripe back then. And that was just to take the money. Then there's the fulfillment. To put a digital product somewhere that people could access, it took me 3 months to figure out. And I had to hire a guy and pay him because he had to code some PHP database and set it up for me so I could take orders and fulfill on products. Hosting was expensive and complicated and as hell. And then when I started doing shadow operator deals, we had to figure out how to distribute the money. Who would collect it? Who would be in charge of it? How would the other person get paid? When would they get paid? The point being, it's a very uncomfortable and delicate situation when it comes to collecting and distributing money, which WAP now completely solves for you. Easier than you can ever imagine. Do you see that behind you? It says earn $10 million on WAP. Consulting.com. Imagine processing $10 million without a hiccup, just like that. Bam. I mean, maybe there was a hiccup or two. But to be able to take nothing and go to 10 million just like that, couldn't do it in my day. Now with WAP, you're able to set up payment distributions where both people get what they're owed without one person having to rely on the other, since it all happens automatically through WAP. But WAP also allows you to fulfill digital products there too. The people who buy your products can get access to them right inside of WAP. And the fulfillment is super simple and super intuitive, and WAP is completely free. You don't have to pay anything to use it. It operates like any merchant operates. It takes a small percentage of the sales that it transacts. You now have the ability to collect money frictionlessly and deliver the product frictionlessly. When you combine this with AI, especially some of the cutting AI that we put out for shadow operators, and we've updated this specifically to help shadow operators, it now makes the shadow operator model, which has always been so powerful and effective, about 10 times more powerful now and 10 times easier. I'm telling you, my friend, this is the perfect time in history to be a shadow operator. You feel me? Put the shadow operator in the chat if you do. Which leads me to the final piece of the puzzle before I reveal all these insane session-only bonuses that I have available while we're live here today. If you've already locked your spot in, you've got these 3 bonuses. If you haven't yet, if you lock it in before the end of the session today, you get these. But here's the last secret. I am here because I'm a shadow operator. This is why Iman tapped into me in the first place. Before we ever conceived of launching a shadow operator model, because I came in last year to help out with a different project. The reason I'm even before you is because Iman knew my reputation as a shadow operator, and he knew what I could bring to the table. And when he reached out to me last year, the reason I said yes to him, yes to traveling 16 hours by airplane, yes to spending 2 weeks away from my family, yes to working tirelessly nearly every day around the clock for you, is very simple. I only work with the best. Not just the best at what they do. What I mean is I only work with the best offers. And this is so great for you as a shadow operator. Soon you get to be in the seat where you get to choose who you work with and what you represent. I only work with the best offers to the audience that those offers serve. And when it comes to shadow operating, head and shoulders beyond anything else, Iman and his crew have provided you with the best opportunity of doing shadow operating possible. And I put my reputation on it. Now, in part, this is because of Iman's ownership stake in WAP. See, his big incentive here isn't to sell you a 1995 program, whatever, right? That's not going to make him, it's not going to really do anything for him, right? In fact, when you factor in all of the cost involved in the fulfillment on this, all of the support, all of the effort, and my hefty fee that goes on top of it to be a part of this, there's not much margin left. The real value, the real long-term play is that if we can get more shadow operators in place on WAP, then the value of WAP goes up. And Iman's share as a result is worth far more than whatever we can make from launches like this if we did 10 launches a year like this. Now, this is the power you have as a shadow operator. You get to pick and choose who you work with. While it's true you can take advantage of any opportunity, I suggest that you work with micro creators whose values align with yours. You work with micro creators who are putting good things out in the world. You work with micro creators who are making the world better. You work with micro creators who are serving their audiences well. And that way, you can help them serve even better. If you took what they did and if you put it into the right type of digital product, which our specialized AI software allows you to do quicker and easier than ever before, keep in mind, we've only discussed one of the 17 strategies available to you during this workshop. We only broke down the Instagram shadow operator formula to you. There are other formulas. We did that because it's the easiest one to start with, carries the least amount of risk, and is the most universally applicable to all the audiences that we reach on this workshop. Now, once you get inside of Monetize, you're going to see all the strategies laid bare in front of your very eyes. Plus, I'm going to sweeten the pot. I have 3 incredible bonuses. The retail cost of these bonuses, if you were to buy them separately, because yes, these are products that I sell on the open market, would total more than your investment in the whole Monetize package here today. That's why I'm only making these bonuses available while we are here live today. The moment that I shut this webinar down, these bonuses will disappear. So as long as you sign up before the end of our time today, or if you've already signed up, then you're going to get some super extra special bonuses. I have 3 killer bonuses. Before I reveal them, let me run back through exactly what you're going to get when you say yes to Monetize here today. First thing you're going to get is 100 pre-vetted creators. We've manually sourced 100 creators for each and every single one of you because we want to get the ball rolling. We want to get you started. So if I can stack the deck in your favor, so the one less thing you have to do is go and find who's the first 100 micro creators I should reach out to, Jason, I say, don't worry about it. I've already put them in the system for you. Here's your 100. You get 100, and you get 100, and you get 100, and you get 100. You get the best micro creators that are best suited to be shadow operators for, and all of you get your own unique batch of 100. And so this is super incredibly valuable, costs tremendous amounts of monies on our end to do this service for you, and you get it as part of the deal when you sign up for Monetize. The second thing you get is Flowzy. And Flowzy is super powerful, and the average person who pays for it pays over $1,000 per year for access. You get this as part of the deal. Flowzy is what's called a client relationship management software. And you could run your whole service, entire shadow operation business on it. When you sign up for Monetize, your Flowzy is going to come in with those 100 creator leads, and you can see how easy it is to work them. You go from new lead, contacted, qualified, proposal, etc., etc. You will run your whole business through this dashboard, and it will be a godsend for you. To date, 50,000 plus businesses have used Flowzy, and they have closed over $35 million in revenue through it. So if you want to be a pro, you got to use the tools the pros use. Flowzy is the pro tool for the shadow operators, and it's going to become loaded with 100 pre-vetted creators for you. You're also going to get Ghostwriter. This is a collection of specialized AI agents that are going to write everything needed for you to shadow operate. It has these 0 prompt agents, which I love to death because we've done all the pre-prompting for you. You just fill in a couple blanks and it will customize all of the best campaigns that need to be developed to launch these products for the micro creators. And this does this for you better than any other AI that you could find on the planet. Ghostwriter OS. Now, we scratched the surface of what Ghostwriter OS can do during this workshop, but it is so much more than just what we're talking about as it relates to specifically, say, creating the Instagram story sequence for you, which it can do in a couple clicks of a button in a few minutes. It's insane. It can also create the monetization game plan for you. Again, a couple clicks of a button, few minutes. This is your tool that's going to get the micro creators to say yes to you. It will launch their story sequence for them as well. And I'll tell you, this is just the tip of the iceberg of all of the awesomeness that Ghostwriter OS has for you. Iman has spent over $500,000 in licensing fees just to be able to distribute this software to you freely as part of the Monetize package. You're also going to get this other software called Synthesize AI. Synthesize AI will allow you to automatically create the structure of the best digital product possible for each micro creator that you're going to partner with. It just got a massive upgrade. So my existing monetized members that I know are here from our previous launches, make sure to go back in and use that again, because this thing is just like doubled in value. And by the way, once you're a monetized member, the last monetized members got all these upgrades for free, because that's how we take care of our customers, right? Previous monetized users use Synthesize and Ghostwriter to help them generate $15 million in sales in their first 90 days. So we run these Monetize Mania contests, and we track the results of new signups and how many sales that they make. In aggregate, the last launch we did in October, $15 million in sales from its members who were using the tools like Synthesize and like Ghostwriter OS to shadow operate. Synthesize AI is a $3,000 per year tool that you get for free as part of the package at Monetize here. Then you get the Shadow Operator Playbook. I love this thing. This is Netflix level production. Every word is scripted out and shot perfectly step by step after analyzing thousands of interactions with customers just like you to best shape this playbook to follow step by step of exactly what to do at each part of the process. From beginning to end to close the shadow operating deals and to fulfill on them. You'll get it from starting with the business model, signing your first deal, landing your first creator launch, scaling to multiple creators, and so on and so forth. These types of trainings easily could go for $5,000. You get it as part of the deal in the monetized package. Plus, you get to be certified as a qualified AI shadow operator. Not just certified easy peasy, right? I'm talking certified by consulting.com. That's a baller ass domain name. It's $1 million plus domain name in and of itself. So if somebody sees you're certified from a domain name like that, consulting.com with a certificate, that's going to be your credibility to close that first deal in and of itself. Super duper powerful, and consulting.com is the #1 consulting firm in the world. Now, you have to pass a test, which means you go through the playbook, and when you're done, you take the test to get certified, and then you will have a certification to help assist you when you go out and close these micro creators and do these shadow operator deals. And here's the incentive to do so. You get a free entry into Monetize Mania 3. Starting January 20th, we're kicking off a 90-day competition between everyone who has joined this round of Monetize. 90 days from now, 5 individuals who finish at the top will get a complimentary seat at the next Quantum Mastermind. Now, I was at the previous Quantum Mastermind in South Africa. That is worth its weight in gold. Everybody that attended there pays $25,000 to be in that group. You cannot not make money if you are in that room. This is an exclusive experience. Clients pay $25,000 to join. You get a ticket if you're one of the top 5 producers as a shadow operator in the next 90 days starting on January 20th. So let's recap what you get when you say yes to the monetized package today. You get 100 pre-vetted creators handpicked by us. This is worth thousands and thousands of dollars. They come preloaded into your client management system, a system that we've had 50,000 businesses use to close over $35 million in revenue with. You get Ghostwriter OS, a specialized AI tool that is designed specifically to help you as a shadow operator. You get unlimited access to Synthesize AI, the tool that's going to help you develop the digital products for your micro creators. You get the shadow operating playbook with the step-by-step walkthrough on how to get this opportunity starting from scratch. You get the consulting certificate that officially recognizes you as a consulting.com qualified AI shadow operator. You get your golden ticket to Monetize Mania, your chance to win a seat to be in the same room as shadow operators making hundreds of thousands, in some cases $1 million plus a month. The last time we opened this, Monetize users generated $15 million during that contest, and users who got a product live averaged $60,003 in earnings. The total investment for this package, just on the things, if you had to purchase them separately, would be $8,561, not to mention all the stuff you couldn't buy. So at $5,000, this is an incredible deal, which is why it's an absolute no-brainer for you to sign up right now at the special deal of $19.95, and it also can be financed. If you qualify. Financing is available, and in fact, it's the most flexible financing you'll find anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to finally build an online income using AI as a shadow operator so you don't have to put your face out there, then click the link, that is going to drop in the live chat in 3, 2, 1, now. So you'll see it. We'll pin it into the chat here on the YouTube Live. If you prefer, you can just go straight to joiniman.com. Both of them will take you to the same location. This is where you can get registered. This is where you can get signed up. And when you sign up, I have 3 exclusive bonuses for you available only while we are here live today. The first bonus I have for you is called GOAT Webinars, because I am the GOAT at webinars, greatest of all times. Everyone calls me that, right? A couple years back, somebody says, Jason, you should put together a program on all the webinars you've ever done. So I went through 17 years of success doing webinars, and I isolated and found every single webinar that I did that was successful. I discovered I had 32 webinars that had generated at least 6 figures, many of them 7 figures. But here's what I discovered when I went back and analyzed them before I did this launch today with Iman. Half of those webinars were for shadow operator products. These are pitches that I've constructed and offers that I've made and courses that I've laid out and designed based upon shadow operating principles, meaning I was publishing, selling other people's products that I did not create to audiences I did not assemble. So I figured the best way to help empower you to be a shadow operator was to give you undeniable proof of the best shadow operating plans that I've ever run across my very long and incredibly successful career. So you're going to get a masterclass on everything that comes along with persuasion, how to make these offers, how to package them up, and ideal ways to extract maximum values from marketplaces, how to sell at the highest price possibles and still have the best deals. And this is an immense value you can then shift into the hands of the micro creators. You can go to gowebinars.com. This is a program that we retail for every day at $24.97, and people buy it every day by word of mouth for $2,497. So it would literally cost you more just to own my program if you bought it direct from me than it would be if you invested in Monetize. You are going to get it for free when you invest in Monetize, as long as you invest today, and you'll get it for free even if you finance your investment in Monetize. As long as you can sign up for Monetize, I am going to email you access to Go Webinars as if you paid $2,495 for it. You are going to get it 100% for free. In addition, here's the second bonus I got for you. It's called Murder the Objection. This was a small closed-door program that I did for businesses that were making at least 7 figures or more. I charged $5,000 per person to attend, and for 2 days, I taught my most powerful persuasion formula that I ever existed. And I told you about it earlier. If you remove the reasons to say no, you will sell more than if you just try to get people to say yes. Real sales happen when you remove the reasons to say no, not increase the reasons to say yes. The biggest successes I've experienced as a shadow operator is the ability to remove risks from partners that I shadow operate with. And then as an extension of that, when we launch to their audiences, we remove the risk for the audience. So it becomes more expensive for the audience to say no than it does to say yes. Murder the Objection, if you go to murdertheobjection.com, if you were to purchase the recordings, it would cost you $1,500. I'm going to give you the whole training program, about 16 hours worth, for free. So when you add up these 2 bonuses that I'm offering you here today, if you sign up before the end of our time as we are live here today, or if you've previously signed up, to buy Go Webinars and Murder the Objection from their websites right now would cost you $4,000. I'm literally giving you $4,000 in actual retail price products for free when you invest in Monetize for just $19.95, or when you finance it. Then the last bonus, I'm going to do a live Q&A in early February, okay? This is exclusively for Monetize members who have already signed up or who signed up before the end of this session. This is an Ask Me Anything. This is where you can literally ask me any and everything that you want related to shadow operating. And I tend to go long. I don't know if you've noticed that, right? I tend to really hang in there until I can really connect with you. This is a pure training session. I will expose the greatest secrets that I know as a shadow operator. And Iman says I'm the greatest of all time when it comes to shadow operating with this model. I will spill the secrets of everything that I've ever done as one of the most successful, or maybe the most successful shadow operator in history. I will show you how I close deals, how I get people to approach me, how I approach other people, and how we make millions of dollars operating inside of the shadows. All of these bonuses are exclusive to you as a monetized member, as long as you have already signed up or signed up before we end the session here today. So hopefully I made the value clear to you of what's at stake.